So when I was thinking about the whole discussion, I came to the conclusion that the underlying question to this whole thing is we're really asking what is the value and relevance of studying classics? Why study classics and not politics or philosophy, or why not liberal arts? And is just studying the work of old dead men or some pots with some snazzy paintings, or is it something more? Um, and personally, I think that classics, it's not just a study of a distant past that has no relevance to the present. It's quite the opposite. Almost everything in the modern Western world has its classical roots. And this is my foundational point, that studying classics helps understand our world, the way that it works, and how we got here. And I don't think there's anything more valuable than that. Much of what we experience in our own lives has its origins in the ancient Greek and Roman worlds, from architecture to big ideas in philosophy, medicine, law, democracy. And they can even offer an insight into debates on issues like institutional racism. So this year, one of the modules that I'm taking, which is actually led by Michael, is Democracy and Imperialism, which looks at Athens, the proclaimed torchbearer of ancient democracy, how it rose to power, how democracy is established in Athens, and it's the study of the very roots of our political thought. By studying it, we begin to answer questions like, why do we have democracy? Why, or if democracy is good, is modern democracy anything like its original? And is it a system which needs reform? So classics is at the root of asking questions, and it also sets us in good stead to answer them. Another module that I'm taking is Africa and the Making of Classical Literature. And that looks at significant contributions made by Africa in creating the classical canon and their simultaneous erasure from history. And it's a module which is incredibly relevant in light of the recent BLM movement and more broadly, the efforts over the years to decolonize the curriculum. And it helps paint a picture as to how ideas underlining institutional racism were formed and how they were sustained, and how the classical world was used to justify ideas like the superiority of one race over another. I think classics helps us understand who we are, our identity. So over the summer, I completed a project which was looking at identity, how we create it, and the ancient Greek parallels between forming a collective Greek identity and the perceptions of us versus them, of the other, in political discourse, and the parallels around that to the Iraq War and the political discussions around it, and the use of the values like freedom, like democracy, to justify violence on behalf of the US and the UK. So classics directly feeds into our political institutions, our art, our architecture, our Lego, our perceptions of ourselves and others, our identity. So we know who we are and how we arrived here through looking to our past. And classics is the very cornerstone on which the Western world stands, and as such, it never expires in its relevance. So really, the answer to why classics now is that classics is always relevant. It always has been and always will be. Yeah, that's all.